Oh, God. I am bloated. Sorry?
So great of Diane. No, I'm just thinking how great it is of Diane to bring us together. Never mind viruses, fuck viruses. We decided backstage the virus was a plot to keep women from getting together.
Yeah.
Right?
That's my conspiracy theory, yeah. But it's, I mean, the amount of things that women overcome on a daily basis anyway, just to get through the day, like we can handle a virus. Can't we, ladies? Yes. So, Gloria, thanks for being here today. It's always a joy for anyone to get to be in a room with you and learn from you.
We've been together, this is the third time, getting to know each other in public. We've done 3 of these.
Yeah, it's like our very own dating reality TV show. Okay, so I'm going to start with a soft and easy question. What do you think has been the biggest victory of your life as an activist?
That's easy?
Yeah, I know.
Oh gosh, that's so
It doesn't
hard.
just have to be one. You could name a couple of moments that you felt.
I think it's just keeping going day by day by day by day, because it isn't that there's one huge victory or one huge problem, and it isn't that we can live in the future either. We can only live in the present. So I think the biggest victory for me is to be here, to be with you, to walk through airports, and because I'm lucky to be recognized as something that is part of what I care about. Mm-hmm. It's like we've already had lunch 6 times, you know, so perfect strangers come up to me and we continue our conversation, you know. So I think it's definitely in the moment, the victory in the moment.
Wonderful. And where do you think our focus needs to lie now? I know that there are so many issues going on in the world, almost to the point where it feels like we don't know where to start. And some of us want to help, but we all just feel so small that we don't know where to begin. Where would an ideal place for us to start be? Where do you think women's focus most belongs right now?
No, I mean, again, I think that each of us knows that. So, you know, we can't tell each other that. If we are thinking about the big picture, each of us starts with our bodies. You know, we happen to have a womb, the one thing guys don't have, okay? If we didn't have a womb, we'd be fine, okay? And but because the nature of, I mean, the very definition of patriarchy is controlling reproduction, and because if there's race or caste, as in India, then it redoubles the need to control reproduction in order to keep races separate. That it is rooted in our bodies, and actually every single authoritarian or fascist regime in the world has started out with controlling women's bodies. Whether it's now in Brazil or whether it was in Hitler's Germany, the first thing he did was to padlock the family planning clinics and declare abortion a crime against the state. I mean, the first step in an authoritarian regime is controlling women's bodies. So for us to understand that the first step in democracy is for all of us, women and men, to control our own bodies, I think that's the center.
I agree. And I know that this is a big year for this topic because we have Roe v. Wade under attack, and now we have so many people rolling back the clock and taking us to an archaic time where we no longer have autonomy over our uteruses. And I imagine, having been there the first time around, this must be a profound surprise to you. Would you say that it's back?
It's only a surprise because I think I was naive before. You know, I think I didn't understand how deep it was and how fundamental this issue was. So I don't think it should be a surprise. In fact, if we understand it's the first step in every hierarchy, we're not so surprised that it keeps coming back. But it's different now because about 2/3 of the country agrees that we should have reproductive rights and bodily freedom and so on. And that wasn't true before. But now the third of the country that is still into the old hierarchical thing is mad as hell. And they're especially mad, I think, because in very short order, this country will no longer be a majority white country, which is a good thing. We'll look more like the world. I mean, how great is that? You know?
Great food.
But they don't see.
Great food.
But if folks were born into this kind of idea that their white skin gives them right, so you will see a lot of emphasis now on white supremacy groups trying to get white women to have more children, and against abortion and contraception, and so you see it rising up, right?
So what do we do? I have one theory, which is just to be able to destigmatize, at least talking about it, at least having the conversation. I have been maybe too vocal about the abortion I had, that I at one point said was the best decision I ever made. And then
I agree too.
Yeah.
And I would say that about my decision, yes. And the luckiest in my time to be able to make that decision.
Exactly. I then corrected it and I said it was the second best decision I ever made, and cutting bangs was in fact the best decision I've ever made. It's kind of a trademark. And for me, that felt not only liberating to admit to something where I remember the day that I went to go and have my abortion, I got pelted in the eye with rosary beads. There were people standing outside just pelting fucking tiny little rosary beads in my face. But moving beyond that and no longer carrying any shame whatsoever about doing exactly what was best for me at that time. And I cannot stress enough, thank you. And I cannot stress enough how much I want to remind people that it doesn't just have to be an emergency. The reason that you choose to terminate a pregnancy, let's say, or just bring a pregnancy to a close, doesn't have to be because you were a victim of assault, or because incest was involved, or because you were 13. Sometimes you can be 27 and in the middle of your career and getting on with your life and not with the right partner, and just not be ready for a fucking child, for your mental health and for your financial well-being and your just general sense of sanity and physical well-being. You should do whatever the fuck you like, I think.
Well, this was summed up to me and to Flo Kennedy a long time ago.
Yeah.
Because we were sitting in the back of a taxi cab in Boston, and this old Irish woman taxi driver, very rare for a taxi driver, we were talking about abortion because Flo had written a great book called Abortion Rap, right? And the taxi driver turned around to us and said, "Honey, if men could get pregnant, abortion would be a sacrament."
But I do think that me being able to talk about this, what I saw on my timeline, I guess we'll say, is other women starting to come forward, or other people who have uteruses being able to step forward and be able to talk about theirs. So us removing our own shame about any of these issues, in particular the very stigmatized ones, really does free other people around us. It doesn't just free you, it frees those in your periphery to then talk about theirs. And so if you have gone through this, or if this is something you are considering, share, talk about it. Don't be afraid of it. You have nothing to fear. You are doing nothing wrong. You are just doing whatever is best for you, and that is your right as a human being. But let's just start this conversation and make this conversation move as far as we can together, because that's the best chance that we have at making this conversation so big that people can't ignore it. And by us being silent, it means that we are not gathering together and coming together enough to fight back against what is a truly scary force that will spread if we don't do everything we can to interrupt it. But moving on. No. Okay, so I want to ask you how you take care of yourself, because I am run ragged. And you have been doing this for such a long time, and you have been right at the front line and putting yourself in such precarious situations, politically or socially politically. How do you look after Gloria?
Well, I'm not a role model here, okay? I've never gone jogging in my life. I don't go to the gym. I don't.
Same.
I don't want you. It's generational. You'll have to excuse me. It's all right.
I don't run unless I'm being chased, like, as a rule.
But I think that I do, sleep when I need to, and I'm kind of, if there were an Olympic team for sleeping, I would be on the team, because if I haven't slept in days, I can sleep for 12 hours, and so, I just think it's listening. I don't mean to be corny about this, but kind of listening to your body and figuring out what you need at the moment. Am I hooked on sugar? Yes. Do I try to control that? Yes. There's a book called Sugar Blues, which is a single-factor analysis of all of history, the downfall of all of history based on sugar. I recommend it. But anyway.
We had to wrestle you into the lift to get you away from the cookie jar, just to get you down to the stage.
But I suspect the most important thing to me, besides water and food and sleep, are friends. Because we can only empathize, and feel, there's a reason why being alone, being in solitary confinement, is the most severe punishment universally in the world. We are communal and we need each other, and that's why I'm so grateful that we have this today. And it is my friends, my chosen family, who are my most important caregivers.
Yeah. You have been gathering with women for decades now. Have you managed to find great friends? I mean, you found some friends through your allyship and through advocacy. Does it matter if you are friends with the people that you are spending your day-to-day existence on the front line with?
Well, hopefully, as I was saying, we do need to be together physically. And I do take great comfort, even if I'm not always conscious of it, in the fact that I know that my friends, and I think they know too, that we will stand by each other. Now, at my age, of course, part of the problem is that some of my friends are gone. Wilma Mankiller, my dear friend, is no longer with us. But her daughters and her, there's kind of an outgrowth of that. Alice Walker, we never see each other, Alice and I. We never see each other. But, she's in California or she's in Mexico and I'm here. But we all know, we each know that we have each other's back, kind of. I remember emailing her a couple of years ago when I was being accused of this or that, and warning her, and she said, "Oh yes, I know that." She said, "They've already come to it. They know that they can't say that to me." That's right. I think that's very important. Again, that's very important.
Speaking of getting into trouble, I'm no stranger to it. If you've seen my Twitter, it's a shit show.
But I have a cure for her. She'll tell you. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I have foot-in-mouth disease, and sometimes can make a fuck up. Also, I think just generally being able to say exactly how you feel is quite modern in my existence even. So I think that sometimes we're not perfectly practiced at communicating exactly how we feel, and we are going to make blunders and make mistakes because we are still not accustomed to actually being asked what we think or how we feel. It feels almost as if in the last 4 or 5 years is the first time I've ever been asked about anything other than my fucking skincare regime. And so I make mistakes, and then it happens.
Sell that. A fucking skincare regime would sell.
But we might. So I'm doing this currently on a very public platform where we have social media. The reactions are very instantaneous. Would you say that things are harder now, even though now it's easier for a message to circulate? Is that a word? That's a word, isn't it? There we go. I'm not drunk. And, you know, Black Lives Matter and Me Too and Time's Up and Protect Trans Kids and all these different wonderful hashtags and messages have moved because of social media, but it also means that for activists, the backlash or the access for the opposition to attack us and smear us is so intense. Would you say it's easier now?
Well, it's easier in the sense that it's more communal.
Yeah.
I mean, think about Anita Hill all by herself, remember? And how difficult it was. I don't know how she survived, you know. And now it is a majority understanding, don't you think, that, you know, and people are speaking out and Me Too and all of that. So the more of us who do that, the safer it is. But it is still, there's still an impulse to blame the victim instead of blaming the person who did the act, or to shovel it under the rug or whatever. So the fact that you do speak out and that you do, and I know that you get punished for it online. I think that's new, isn't it? That we're now getting, or newish, that we're getting threats online in a very scary way. But on the other hand, and there are ways of dealing with it, and the Women's Media Center, you can go there and try to, you know, they'll try to help. I mean, we have to think about what to do about it. But we also have to get over caring what people say about us.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it took me decades to figure out that when people called me a bitch, I should say thank you.
I fully agree. I also, I mean, look, just on a personal note, sometimes when I get a backlash on Twitter or social media, it's because I fucking deserve it, because I made a big mistake and I need to be called out and taught. But sometimes I also feel like we are entering an age where, especially women in particular who speak out, if discrediting is the new death, they won't kill us, so they'll just smear our name and drag our reputation through the mud with lies and targeted smear campaigns. And I don't believe when it happens to someone like you or happens to someone like me, I don't think it's actually about me or Gloria. It's a message to all of you to not speak out. They are deliberately punishing us as hard as they do to make you feel afraid, or other women with a position of power or influence to be like, well, I shouldn't get involved in this conversation, otherwise I will become a target for Breitbart or for any of these different groups who try to silence women and take away our rights.
I mean, I feel so left out. How come Breitbart is not accusing me? I mean, I feel one of the things I have against Trump is he hasn't said anything bad about me. What am I, chopped liver?
Well, maybe today will be your lucky day. But I cannot stress to you enough, and this comes from me and many other activists in this space, that when you see us being dragged through the mud, yes, it is difficult. Yes, sometimes it can be embarrassing and exhausting, but generally we survive, and you will survive. And please do not take this messaging as a signal to you that you shouldn't speak up and speak out and stand up for what's right and stick your neck out. You don't have to. Because these can be micro activisms, but I don't want that to be the messaging that is taken when someone like me gets humiliated publicly or globally. I want you to know that I'm fine. I'm here. I'm sitting with fucking Gloria Steinem, having a great time. I've got Diane von Furstenberg in front of me. Say again? Own it. Yes, own it.
And stand up for each other.
Yeah, stand up for each other.
Right.
And know that together we are stronger. It's a deliberate attempt to silence us, and we must not be fear-mongered. Gloria, I want to ask you, I've just blanked on myself. Okay, how do you feel about having lived such a public life? Because I know that in doing so, you have given us so much, and you've learned so much and traveled all around the world, met so many amazing people. But
well, I don't feel, I mean, how shall I say? I mean, I think I'm in a different position from actors, say, or people who are employed on television, because I'm not having to play someone else. I'm just always saying what I care about. So it is a gift for me because it is, as I was saying, a kind of shorthand that when I meet somebody, it is as if we already know each other a little bit if we agree or if we disagree. I mean, sometimes it's that way too. But as long as it's authentically ourselves and what we care about, I think it's a gift.
So no regrets looking back?
Oh, I have lots of regrets. But they have mostly to do with wasting time.
Right.
By wasting time, I mean not doing what you knew you cared about and wanted to do, and in a sense, time is all there is. So yes, I have regrets.
What was your turning point in no longer wasting time and doing whatever you wanted to do?
You think I've done this? Speak to my publisher.
Well, you've given us plenty in this world, I think. But I also know that you and I have before spoken about how much you have enjoyed aging, which I think is a conversation that we really need to have.
Oh, yes, that's interesting. Right. I think that's
She
really
loves it. She loves aging.
No, well, I don't love aging because I love life, so I don't want to think, wait a minute, what time? But there is something great, I think perhaps especially for women, about being beyond the time of the kind of gender prison. I mean, eventually that will go away, it's diminishing, but even if we're fighting with it, we're still conscious of it, So when we're 6 or 7 or 8, we're probably more free than we are after we're
puberty.
11 or 12 or 13, right. When the gender role comes down upon us, even if we are not obeying the gender role, we are kind of enmeshed with it. After 50 or 60, I think especially I would say after 60, that goes away. It's fantastic. I mean, all those brain cells that were previously devoted to all of that stuff are gone.
Yeah.
And there is a feeling of kind of incredible freedom and a clarity of vision, really, because you don't see people as roles anymore so much. You see people as individuals and young people, especially because there's a reason why. There's a old Native American truism that it is the very old and the very young who are closest together, that they understand each other the best. And I think that is true. So I don't know what to say because I don't want to wish away any precious moment of time. But I do want to tell you that being past 60 is great. And and I was going to do a stand-up comedy act because I thought I had my first line, which is I could come out and I could say, at my age, most people are dead, which is which is actually statistically true, and go on from there.
Do you remember telling me that you were going to make yourself a T-shirt that said, at my age, remembering someone's name is better than orgasms? I will buy that T-shirt. DVF should make that T-shirt. I thank you for that because we are still, in 2020, being so heavily coded and infused with the idea that we must chase youth and hang on to our youth and take every cream and every hemorrhoid cream under our eye or whatever. Is that a thing? I heard that was a thing. But we are supposed to chase youthfulness and play the Lolita part and be the lost little girl forever. And yet here you are with an icon telling you, for damn sure, from experience.
No, I don't say, that's interesting, because I was thinking if I wrote a beauty column,
yeah,
I would just say, do whatever you want,
yeah,
except remember, don't distract from what you are saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a certain, I mean, I understand that lots of women in public life have to have plastic surgery to keep working, and I'm not trying to criticize them. But there's a way in which tattooed eyebrows and eyelashes out to here, and I don't know. It's like talking to a man with a bad toupee. You can't think about anything else, right? So just allow people to focus on what you're saying, right?
And on that note, I think we should take it to the floor. Does anyone here have any questions? We have about
Answers.
5 minutes,
Do you have any answers?
If you want to teach us anything, we're very game to learn. Is there anyone here who has a question that they would like to ask Gloria? Oh, no, don't ask me. I'm always fucking going on. Hello. There's a lady at the back right there. Hi.
Thank you for being here. And what gives you hope after all these years of what seems to be an ongoing, the same issue ongoing?
Wait a minute, what would I hope?
What gives you hope for the future?
Yeah, what gives you hope?
You, everybody. right.
Just you.
No, absolutely. I mean, I think that that those of us who are older have more hope, as I was saying, because we remember when it was worse. So we are more likely to know that it can get better, even though it's slower. And we treasure your anger because we need that too.
Yeah.
We need impatience. We need youth.
I think just generally a room like this gives me tremendous hope. This is something that still feels fairly modern, even through my lifetime, to have this many women consistently gather, to have a day that is for us and a month that is for us now, and for us to feel destigmatized. I remember just 10 years ago, I used to say, oh no, I'm not a feminist, because I thought that was a dirty word. And now for that to be something that we have as a slogan across T-shirts and an identity that we wear with such pride, I find tremendous hope just in what I see
we
in
have
front
two
of us.
choices. You can be a feminist or a masochist. Those are the two choices.
Do we have one more question? Oh, there's a lady right behind you, right there. Hi.
Gloria, is this on? Gloria, who was your greatest teacher and what did you learn from them?
Oh, that's so hard because there's so many.
Top 3?
I mean, I guess if I had to choose just one, I guess I would choose Wilma Mankiller, because I think she represents to me, I mean, she was a friend and all of that, but also she made me understand that patriarchy and racism and all the stuff we're dealing with are kind of new in human history. Mm-hmm. And before I was with her and listened to her, I understood a little bit from being in India, because southern India also has a matrilineal culture. But
what does that mean?
Matrilineal, it just means it's not matriarchal, we're not dominating men, but it's an egalitarian kind of circular culture. Because of the way we learn history, which is essentially when patriarchy and monotheism and racism and other colonialism and other bullshit began, we don't know that is relatively new. And because she emerged from this culture, even though it had been very, treated with violence by this country, and so, but still, she had a knowledge of it. I think that helped me the most. And I used to say to her, how can you have survived knowing, that there were these more egalitarian, democratic, nuanced, accomplished cultures before colonialism and were decimated and so on. And how can you bear it? How can you bear it? And she always said, we're still here.
And we are indeed still here. Thank you so much to everyone for coming. Thank you so much to Gloria Steinem for blessing us with her words.